Welcome, residents, to the Dr. DC podcast. My name is Josh Gill, and across the airwaves from me is the Question Master himself. Each week, we talk about the weird and wonderful world of DC Comics while fielding questioners from listeners like you. Question Master, how are you this week, sir?
It's wonderful to be here as we are every week, broadcasting here from sunny New York City, cafe atop the World Trade Center 1. It's a wonderful September day. Everything's going lovely. Not a cloud in the sky. It's great to be back with you again as we do this every week. I don't want it to take for granted on this, the day of our 1000th episode, where we answer our listeners' questions every single week, no matter how enigmatic or obscure, about pop culture in general, but mostly comic focus. That tends to be where my expertise lays. And, it really means a lot to me that you keep coming into me and me alone, and that nobody else does this exact premise that I do.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, why would anybody else even want to attempt at doing something as obscure as this? It's great.
Yeah, there's really only one person you have to go to with all of your comic book questions, and it's me, Alex Jaffe, the readily available question master on this podcast and many other platforms.
Absolutely. So, Alex, I got to tell you, I just got back. My partner and I, we went and spent the weekend in Phoenix, and I cannot tell you how just heartwarming it is to get off the airplane and like my buddy is standing there at the gate with his dog ready to greet us. Like it's one of the most heartwarming things.
Yeah.
Man, I totally forgot that his dog is named Hal. And going in, it's this just absolutely gorgeous yellow lab named Hal. And I remember when I first got to meet Brian and his dog, I'm giving him all this shit about being, me being the comic book nerd that I am and loving Hal Jordan. I'm making fun of him just left and right. And he looks at me and goes, Josh, that's who Hal is named after.
Oh, no kidding. He named him after the Green Lantern who died in Final Night, and he's like the Spectre now.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great turn for the character. I'm glad they stuck with that.
Oh, I know. It was so great. Well, and Alex, speaking of Green Lanterns,
yes,
that is what we have a bunch of questions for today.
Oh, wonderful. I love Green Lantern. It's one of my favorite corners of the DC universe. I absolutely love how the entire cosmos is defined by where the cops are. I love the fact that cops are the first point of view of everywhere we get to explore in the greater DC galaxy. It's a great decision on DC's part, and one I'm glad we're sticking with, and is completely unproblematic.
I mean, focusing on the heroes in green, or the heroes, Earthbound heroes.
Yeah.
But yeah, the heroes in green. I mean, it's
the bright green line.
Right. Oh, and did you see the news about the new Green Lantern series coming out featuring Simon and Jessica taking up? Yeah, I mean, so as you mentioned, like with Hal dying and relinquishing his post as the patroller of our section, now we're going to get this. Yeah, so it's like this. It's what seasons 5 and 6 of the Green Lantern series, but now we're going to focus on Simon and Jessica as they take up the patrol of our section.
Oh, that's wonderful. I loved the Kyle Rayner season. It was a little controversial, but I really liked how it I thought the way they brought in Tom King's Omega Men, that long running series that went for like 100 issues. I thought they condensed the best parts of it really well into that season, and I'll be sorry to see him go, but Jessica's one of my favorites in this or any other universe, so I hope they do her justice.
Well, since you just mentioned him, let's go ahead and dive into this question with this first question from my wife's boyfriend, who's asking, what do you think about Kyle Rayner being a White Lantern? And do you think he should have stayed that way permanently since he's pushed to the background as a Green Lantern?
Well, I believe what your wife's boyfriend is referring to is briefly after that Omega Men series, Kyle Rayner tried to bring back the Blue Lantern Corps, which was destroyed like 2 or 3 times. And and he kind of had like this moment of weakness where he lost the power of the white light because like there was some kind of tie-in to V for Vendetta or something where they were bringing that in. No, you know what it was? It was Tom Strong. There was this like multiversal interference with, remember Alan Moore's Tom Strong? And yeah, the writer at the time was trying to tie that into the main DC universe because they had gotten the rights to like America's Best Comics. Because, you know, Alan Moore is on such great terms with DC, and they borrow stuff from each other all the time. Really looking forward to the next volume of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, where they're actually going to bring in Batman. They let him use Batman. It's going to be fantastic. Anyway, yeah, there was this moment of weakness where it seemed like he was going to lose the White Lantern, but you know, if you keep on reading, you'll see that the power of life was inside Kyle all along, and he's able to generate it himself. So, of course, I would think that it would be better for Kyle to say White Lantern because, of course, he is a White Lantern. And you know what I say about DC editorial every single week? They know exactly what they're doing. Trust in the editors.
Oh, absolutely. And I love how they adapted that into that season, that Kyle season of the Green Lantern series.
Yeah.
Like watching him go and having that, like spending all season with him struggling to basically accept who he is and accept that like that White Lantern power was inside him the entire time. And then having that finally manifest at the end. Oh, man, that was so great. That was
Man,
so great.
Can we talk just for a second about Tigor in that season? I think Tigor of the Omega Men really got to shine. And I feel like the fact that he was so emblematic of like the underrepresented furry community and just like allowing them to be seen in a DC show, I felt that was a really special moment that that season of Green Lantern brought to the table there.
Oh, you're absolutely right. So next question. By the way, we are on Twitter for these questions.
Twitter.
There it is. So the next question from Chris Chan. How does the Lantern Corps of China fit into the mythos? Are they actually part of the Green Lantern Corps and under the jurisdiction of the Guardians? If not, how do their powers work and how do the Green Lanterns view them?
Oh, this is a great question, Chris Chan. Chris Chan is referring to the paper lanterns from Jean Luen Yang's new Superman series, which sort of reimagined many of the DC heroes of the Justice League of America through the lens of like Chinese and other Asian governments trying to catch up in the superhero arms race. And I thought that was something that really came to a head in Yang's Doomsday Clock event. I thought the way that he sets up those international relations was it was the way they set that up was just a very complex, nuanced political story that I don't think a lesser writer could have attempted. But you know, Yang's always got his finger on the pulse. You know, there were some pressures I heard at the time to like make it kind of a crossover with like this sort like multiverse thing and use it as like a continuity reset, but I'm really glad they kept that out of it. And if you read that book, the paper lanterns were really a big part of it. It was not really associated with the Guardians, but it was bringing the analogy the Guardians represent of this like self-elected police force to the Earth, to bring it like closer to home to like what it means to like appoint yourself, say, the world police, as many governments do. Not that we would know anything about that. America hasn't been at war in 20 years, thank God. And you know, it's interesting to look back and reflect on less peaceful times and to see like what things might be if contentions between nations weren't as solid as they are right now. It's an important the paper lanterns kind of serve as an important warning of what happens when talks between international parties break down and everyone tries to angle to be like the great superpower. So there's no direct connection to the Guardians, but there is a thematic one.
Love it. So refresh my memory. How do their powers work? So no, we go back to the Golden Age Green Lantern. We go back to Alan Scott, and his powers were a little bit different than the modern day Green Lanterns. His were much more mythical in nature, and if I remember right, so were the Paper Lanterns. They were much more mythical, but grounded in the Chinese mythology than they were anything else.
Now, if you'll remember your Green Lantern mythology, the Starheart that came to Earth, which became what powered Alan Scott's lantern, it originally landed in ancient China. So they're drawing from the same source. This is something that you also see in Green Lantern Legacy, those great young adult graphic novels featuring Tai Pham, who I think would make a pretty cool addition to the Green Lantern Corps. Maybe we'll see him in season 7 of the ongoing HBO series.
Yeah. So next question from Arpit Patel. How exactly did Guy get rid of the Red Lantern ring?
Oh, another great question. I
know the mythology behind the Red Lanterns, and
sure,
like removing the ring, like it basically when you don the Red Lantern ring, it replaces a bunch of your insides with just pure rage and the blood magic. And so when you try to remove it, you run the risk of ending your life.
Yes, that's traditionally how it is. Yes. However, Guy Gardner is a Green Lantern before all things. And you know what a Green Lantern has? Bucket loads of willpower, buddy. Josh, the one thing a Green Lantern has is willpower. That's kind of the prerequisite for the job. Just pure power of will is how that dude was able to hang on to his green ring and let the red ring go. He's a tough-headed guy. You can't keep Guy Gardner down. I think he was a pretty controversial choice to start the Green Lantern show with, but I feel like he proved to us there that dude is too stubborn to die. He cannot be killed. That's why Arkillo respects him. That's why all the Lobo respects him. That's why they hang out, because he's just a real tough dude. He doesn't need
Alex
to live. He just needs spite.
We've talked about it before. I've said it 1,000 times. Guy Gardner is the greatest Green Lantern. I will go down with that ship.
Oh man,
obviously he was the right choice to start that series.
It's so
obviously he's the only one that has enough willpower to remove a Red Lantern.
It's so hard to pick, but yeah, if we're going by which Green Lantern has the most will, who has the title of like the greatest Green Lantern, yeah, it's got to be Guy Gardner. There's no debate here.
Absolutely. All right, so next question from Mosaic Comics. The villainous future son of Kyle Rayner and Sora Nignatu traveled back in time and died fighting the Green Lantern Corps. Kyle chose not to tell Sora he was their son, but she found out anyway by unknowingly performing his autopsy.
Was
Kyle right to hide that information?
Oh, that's a really good. That's all. We're getting such great questions this week. I'm so proud of our listeners.
Such great listeners.
We have the best community in the world. The Discord is never insane. Everybody's very well behaved and helpful towards each other. It's wonderful. I'm feeling so grateful for all the question askers out there. Anyway,
it really is the only place that's more welcoming and inviting than Twitter.
Yeah,
honestly,
ever since ever since Jeff Bezos bought Twitter. That place has really been on the up and up.
It's been nothing but a beacon of acceptance and inclusivity. It truly is.
It feels like, a modern day marketplace of ideas, to borrow a hackneyed phrase, but how else can you describe it? It's Bezos's playground, and we're all living in it, and I'm happy to be there. And God bless the cops. Right. Was Kyle in the right to hide that from Sonic? No, of course not. Should have told her. Not. But Kyle is human. Kyle doesn't always make the right decisions. He's not the White Lantern because he's the greatest hero ever. He's the perfect paragon of virtue. What makes Kyle so interesting is that he do we curse in this universe? I haven't decided yet.
I mean, I think I have a couple times already, so I'm going to
All
say
right,
yes.
all right. In this universe, we do fuck. We do say fuck, and we do fuck. But we keep it casual. But yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, yeah, Kyle Rayner fucks up. That's what makes him such a compelling character. That's why season 3 of Green Lantern won that Emmy. Uh, um,
I mean, that exploration of just the human flaws that Kyle embodies is it's what makes him the most relatable Lantern.
oh
Truly,
yeah, absolutely.
like he messes up, he makes those mistakes, he hides shit from his partners. It's easy to fault him for it all, but it's also easy to relate. And you're right, he was not in the right to hide that information from Sornik. Like it's her child.
But
She has the right to
right.
know.
You can't condone it, but you can understand his impulse. Like, of course, he did the wrong thing, but if you were in Kyle's situation, you might make the same mistake. Like, Soranik has been through so much. This is from a potential future that might not even come to pass. Why burden her with this knowledge that she can't do anything to fix? Um, but yeah, he should have told her. That was the right thing to do.
Absolutely. So we're going to leave Twitter now and head on over to Instagram.
Heading on over to Instagram, take some questions and answer them.
From Instagram. First question is from _ Kevin Tran Art. If you guys were lanterns, which color would you choose?
I would say,
Or
yeah.
which color would choose you?
Which color would, oh, that's
a
deep,
different question.
very deep. I think I'd go orange. I'm a hoarder of knowledge. That's me. I'm being honest with myself. I'm a greedy boy. Just give me those comics. Put them in a big old pile for me. I think we've all got a little bit of orange in us. That's why we are in this hobby. That whether we collect knowledge or we collect the books themselves, we're all of us are collectors of story even. And I think it's something we can all identify with, even if we don't necessarily think it's the best part of us. What about you, Josh?
Oh, you ask anybody in the docs board, I'm blue. I'm nothing but compassionate.
Yeah, as we all know,
Just
blue is the color of compassion. We've established this. This is canon.
At the risk of tooting my own horn, I mean, I'm always lifting everybody else up. I'm always the first one to reach out whenever somebody's going through a
I
tough
know you
problem.
wouldn't say this if other people hadn't told you it 100 times. Like, our listeners would be so mad if you didn't say you were the Blue Lantern right now, when you're obviously the Blue Lantern of compassion.
Honestly, I think it's what makes me such a good host, Alex. If again, at the risk of tooting my own horn, it is, the compassion. If I was, I don't know, an egomaniacal dictator of a host, the show just wouldn't have the traction that it does. It wouldn't have survived 1,000 episodes.
Yeah, I can't. It's incredible that we've made it to this point, but it's all on your shoulders, Josh. The fact that you're here every single week, doing the work, gathering the questions, managing my ego. It's very special to me, and I promise I'm going to bring that gratitude towards the table the next time we have our regularly scheduled lovemaking session.
Perfect. Can't wait.
Excellent.
Next question from Obadede98. Hal, John, Guy, Kyle, Simon, Jessica.
These are the lanterns I know.
Yes. Hal and John are known as the Man Without Fear and the Master Builder, respectively. Can you give the other lanterns a nickname that embodies their unique quirks?
Ooh, fun. A creative question. All right. We already said Guy Gardner is the greatest Green Lantern.
Absolutely.
Kyle Rayner is he's the most human of them. He's the heart of, I would call him the heart of the core. How about that? You like that? The heart of the core?
I mean, that was exactly where I went. Was he's the most human.
Yeah.
He's the most relatable. Simon's a lantern without a home.
That's true.
With that immigrant status, he grew up away from his home. He grew up away from where he was born. I mean, he is he is Lantern without a home, but I think that's also what makes Simon such a powerful character because he doesn't have loyalty to any one part of the earth. The earth is his home.
Right. Uh, Simon Baz, citizen of the world, I think.
Yes, absolutely.
And what can you say about Jessica? Jessica's just the best. Jessica is like, she really brings the idea of courage to a relatable level. The fact that real courage is not the absence of fear, but dealing with the fear that you have. And she's definitely the Lantern that I personally relate to the most. I don't know if I don't know if I could give her she's still like too unexplored. I would like to see more with Jessica before like we give her this grand destiny.
Absolutely. And I definitely see her getting much more of a spotlight coming up, especially like we talked about, this new season coming out featuring her and Simon. She's got to have more of a spotlight headed her direction. So we're going to get a lot more of that exploration of her courage, of how much she just goes out of her way to help other people.
Oh, how about this? How does this sit you? Jessica Cruz, Master of Fear.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Next
and then you have Joe Moline, who I think is just the cool one. Joe Moline, the cool Green Lantern.
Oh, yeah. Joe was left off of this list. Good call. Forgot all about her. And you're right. She is definitely, she has that swagger that nobody else can touch.
She makes it look good. I don't know what else to say. That Jamal Campbell art, man.
So great. Next question from Liam K. Willis. I grew up on Hal Jordan, but almost every podcast I listen to shits on Hal and praises Kyle. Why does Hal receive so much hate? And if Kyle is so loved, why is he not more prominent in either comics or movies and TV shows? Well, I think it's fairly simply a lot of our podcast colleagues, parallels are, of our same generation. And when we were coming up, this is after Hal had died and Kyle was the main Green Lantern.
Yeah.
And so
for years.
Yeah. So, there was it was nearly a decade of the only Green Lantern that we saw was Kyle. I mean, we went through the whole period where Kyle rebirthed the Green Lantern Corps before going off to join the Omega Men.
Yeah, that was an incredible arc. All Tom King, just some of his best work, and it's easy to understand why Kyle is so popular. The question of like why isn't he used more? I mean, he's already used a lot, but I wouldn't say no to seeing even more Kyle. Now that I understand now that the Green Lantern show isn't so much about him anymore. They're shifting focus to Simon and Jessica, but there's so many great Green Lanterns out there that it's good to give focus to all of them. I mean, there was a time when every Green Lantern had their own comic, and maybe that time will come again. But right now, the focus is really on developing Sinestro in the comics. And I feel like that's an interesting direction for them to go in. They're really going in on the lesser Green Lantern villains like Sonar and Evil Star. And I'm willing to see where they go with that before like bringing Kyle back in. It's good for them to explore other directions once in a while.
And I mean, just look at that last question. If we just look at the human Green Lanterns, the Earthbound Green Lanterns, there's 7 of them.
Yeah. Great number. I love when there's 7 of them, by the way. It's the best.
And we already have at my last count, there's 13 titles that DC publishes every month that are Green Lantern or Green Lantern adjacent.
That's true.
And, we have 7 Earthbound ones. We're trying to get more focus on Sinestro. We're trying to get more focus on some of the classic Green Lantern villains. We're exploring the Indigo Tribe in their own series.
Yeah, that Indigo book is really underrated, by the way.
Right?
Yeah.
There's only so much. There's only so much we can do.
Hang on. Ann Nesenti is really doing some of her best work on the Indigo Tribe book. I think it's a really like the second phase of her career is starting now with this Indigo book. She's doing things I never could have expected.
Well, and introducing this new Indigo tribe member. I mean, he looks like he could be a lantern from like an unknown color. I mean, is she leading to a Black Lantern Corps? Because it looks somewhat like the White Lantern logo, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah, I understand that. Like, we've never seen a Black Lantern Corps before. That's a really interesting idea. And it kind of ties into, like, how the Oath is like in Brightest Day, in Blackest Night? Like, what if they
Right.
did something else with that? Like, what if they made that an event? What is the Blackest Night? Maybe that's where this whole Black Lantern Corps thing is leading.
Interesting. So you think maybe this Indigo series is going to culminate in
A big event? I mean, it's been a long time since DC did an event comic. They don't do them very often, but I think we're overdue.
I mean, it's been what Infinite Crisis was that 30 years ago?
Yeah, it's something like that. It might have been 35.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we've had a big event. You're
What year
right.
is it, Josh? What year are we in right now as we record this?
2023.
Oh, yeah, of course, 2023. Yes. So Infinite Crisis was 1993. That's correct. And
Yeah,
yeah, we haven't really seen, and
that
that's
is
the
30.
event that is the event where Hal Jordan died and became the Spectre, which I thought was a beautiful moment.
Oh,
Uh,
absolutely.
yeah, we haven't really had a big event comic since then. I mean, you could stretch it and call 52 an event, but I wouldn't call 104 an event. I wouldn't
No,
call 166 an event, and any of the other sequels to 52 they made. I thought that was stretching it a little far, but they had some good talent on those.
they did. I mean, and they were fun series, but they, like you said, they weren't really events.
Yeah,
Um,
it was more like a serialized story. Yeah, I, I think DC's been doing a great job with those. And yeah, I think we're overdue for an event. Maybe that's where this is headed. I don't know. Fingers crossed. I love events. I'm very nostalgic for events. I wish DC would do more of them. We'll see where that goes.
yeah. Next question from Max Nopo. I like Grant Morrison. I like Green Lantern. I hated Grant Morrison's Green Lantern. I found it way too convoluted. How do you feel about it, and should I revisit it?
Read it again. And if you still don't understand it, read it again. And if you still don't get it, why don't you read it again? And I've got one more tip if you don't get it that time. Why don't you read it again? These Grant Morrison books are meant to be read multiple times. If you're confused, that's the point. That's where you're supposed to be. You should be reading all of Grant Morrison's comics before then. You should be reading Grant Morrison's Substack. You should be reading his account of the time that their account of the time they went into the Mojave Desert and tripped out on mescaline, and then aliens visited them and told them about the multiverse. You should look up the video on YouTube where they channel the spirit of John Lennon and write a new Beatles song. That's a real thing. Look it up. This is all important context to understanding Grant Morrison's The Green Lantern. And you'll understand why it's called The Green Lantern and not just Green Lantern when you get through it. It's The Green Lantern. Other Green Lantern books don't really matter. That's the main one. And I thought it's really cool how it's not actually about any particular lantern. It's not about Kyle Rayner. It's not about Guy Gardner. It's not about John Stewart. Of course, it's not about Hal. Hal's been away for a while, but I love that Spectre book that John Ostrander is still writing to this day. What a great run. Anyway, I think it's really cool that run is about the power battery. It's about the Green Lantern itself on Oa and all the things it kind of witnesses. And once you learn to see the story from the battery's perspective, I think that's really going to unlock it for you.
Yeah. I mean, no notes. That's it. That's the only way you can approach anything Grant Morrison.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I will throw one more thing out there. If you get through that 7th reread and you still don't get it,
got to do it 7 times.
Got to do it 7 times. There was a random Twitter thread from, I think, 2007.
Yeah.
That Grant Morrison, it may have been right around the time he was in the Mojave, but at the time it's just read as complete nonsense, but it cracks the code for Green Lantern.
Oh, absolutely. It's like a cipher code. Like when you line up each panel to that Twitter thread and, put on Dark Side of the Moon for ambiance, it all kind of lines up. And it's just such a beautiful multimedia work. And if you're not paying attention, you're missing out on like one of the greatest things comics has to offer. I don't know what to tell you, man.
All right. Next question is from Draco Folly. What's the best way to do Earth-based Lantern stories?
I would say the best way to do an Earth-based Lantern story is to write a script, send it to an artist, have the artist draw the script. Then you get an inker to ink that drawing. Then you get a colorist to fill in the inked drawing. Then, and I hope you'll bear with me here, you get a letterer to put the words from that first script. Remember the script from the first step? You put the letters from that script into the comic, and that's a letterer. And then you ship it out to a printer who binds it in a physical copy, also puts it available, makes it available online for people. It's easier to get through that way. Then you use a publisher to distribute it, go to bookstores, set up a schedule that's like once a week, maybe once a month per title. I mean, once a week is a little ambitious. And the final step is to not pay any of them and to adapt it into $1 billion movie that no one involved in the creation of that story will ever see.
I mean, that sounds like, fairly typical of the distinguished competition.
Yeah.
But from a DC perspective.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought of something really funny from the other day. Unrelated. Unrelated. What the fuck are we doing, Josh? Next question, please.
Next question from 3-Chord Me. Please make me feel better about Kyle being my favorite Green Lantern.
You have wonderful taste.
Yeah, you've made a fantastic decision in your life, and everything is pointing up from here.
You have an incredible penis and or amazing tits. You are probably smarter than most people in any room that you enter. You smell very, very nice. And people are happy to be within the zone of your body odor because it just perks them up. Let's see. All of your dreams are going to come true within the next 5 months. I looked. And that's all of the things I can think of to say to you as a Kyle Rayner fan.
Yeah, no notes. That's it. I mean, again, you have already chosen Kyle as your favorite Green Lantern.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to make you feel better about anything. I mean,
you've made the best decision. I mean, there's a lot of room to be said for Guy Gardner being the best Green Lantern, but Kyle's
we know how I feel.
You know how you feel. People love that Guy has his hardcore fans, and I support them. I'm a Jessica Cruz fan myself, but I'm starting to lose track of what's the truth and what's not here. No, but yeah. You have great taste for being a Kyle Rayner fan, and I stand by that. You can challenge me after this episode for whatever reason, and I will say the same thing.
So we're now going to leave Instagram and we're going to head over to Reddit,
where everyone is mean and no one is ever nice.
Every now and then we get a decent question off of Reddit, but yeah, you're right. For the most part, they're just so hateful.
Real scumbags over there. I mean, most of Reddit is really nice. But our subreddit there in particular is just a cesspool. Not like our Discord. Not like our Discord at all. Our Discord's very nice.
Discord is great. But I was able to sort through all of just the vile comments on Reddit and found a good question for us.
Oh, wonderful. Let's for a change. I'm so happy, Josh. Maybe this place is going to turn around.
This is a really great question. I'm really happy I was able to find this one from Dr. Professor Who. Could a Green Lantern craft a key to open the Fortress of Solitude in Superman's absence?
Yeah, why not? Next question.
Yeah, I mean, like they can make anything out
right.
They can make anything with their ring that they put their mind to it. Now, the only thing that would give me any type of pause is, do they know what that key looks like?
I mean, Superman just kind of leaves it lying around. In some versions, it's a big old giant key that's outside the Fortress of Solitude that's just too heavy for anyone but Superman to lift. In other versions, it's a small key that he leaves out under the mat, except it's also so heavy that anyone else can lift it. But either way, it's easy to get a look at what Superman's key looks like. The Fortress of Solitude is, as pretty much any Superman villain will attest, very easy to break into. It's hard to keep people out of the it's kind of a fortress in name only. It's more like where Superman goes to hang out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Green Lantern pretty easily could make that, I guess. Yeah, if they can see it, especially if it's somebody like John, who is that master craftsman.
Yeah,
making a key and getting it to turn in the lock, easy for him.
John wouldn't. Guy wouldn't bother. He just punched the door down. Green Lantern ring or no.
I mean, that is one of the greatest one punch moments in DC Comics history.
Oh, that time he punched open the Fortress of Solitude, that was incredible. That yes. Everyone couldn't believe it. It was like one punch. Yeah.
I mean,
that's why they call him the greatest Green Lantern, but we could call him the One Punch Man.
This is true. I mean, but let's be honest. If you're going to call anybody to save Superman from Mongol, you're going to call Guy Gardner.
Of course. Guy's your first call, number one on the speed dial.
So just like that whole story arc of Mongol taking him captive in the fortress, Guy coming in
man,
I cannot tell you how many times a year I reread that series,
ripping that black mercy plant off his chest with his bare hand. I think we can all agree that it was really Alan Moore who cemented Guy Gardner as the best Green Lantern, and we really owe it all to him in that Superman story that launched his rise to stardom.
Yeah, and kudos to Alan Moore for just correcting all of the wrong that Jeff Johns did.
Who?
Well, Alex, you got to remember, there was a 2-year period where DC thought it would be cool to recruit Jeff Johns. He wrote, I think, maybe one of the X-Men books for Marvel, and they brought him over, and he just about tanked Green Lantern.
Yeah. Wasn't he like Richard Donner's PA or something?
Right.
He did that Stars and Stripe revival. That was okay. I kind of wondered what happened to him after that.
Yeah, well, he just about tanked Green Lantern, and DC sent him packing. He's been floundering over at Marvel for the last couple of years, trying to latch on to another title and just hasn't been able to make anything work.
Yeah.
But, we try not to talk bad about the competition.
Yeah. Well, more power to him. I hope he figures his stuff out, but I'm glad that Green Lantern was able to steer itself in the right direction without him.
Yeah. Thank you, Alan Moore.
Thank you, Alan Moore. Alan Moore knows the score, as I say every single week. It's kind of my catchphrase. It's on all our merchandise. Buy our merch, by the way.
Buy our merch.
Yeah.
All right. Next, so we are now headed over to the Doc Scored.
Let's see. Doc scored it. Check it and see. I got a fever of 103. Yeah, I know I do that one every week, but it's a good one.
It is. I mean, why try to fix what's broken? If it's not broken, don't fix it. There we go.
All my other ones are consistent. Why shouldn't that one be?
Right. We are nothing if not consistent.
Absolutely.
First question from the Doc Scored is from Only Just Dan Dunn. If you had to make an existing character a lantern permanently, who would it be?
Batman.
Why?
He's all about striking fear into people. I think Batman would be an incredible Yellow Lantern.
Oh, you read that as any color lantern.
Yeah, he didn't say green. Didn't say green.
That's fair. See, it's going to be okay. And under that logic, it's Barry Allen. It's going to be a Blue Lantern.
Oh yeah, the Lantern of Compassion, Barry Allen. I mean, that makes sense.
I mean, I vibe with him for a reason. Alex, we've talked about it 1,000 times at this point. Barry is my favorite character, and it is because of that compassion.
I mean, my question is though, you would bring Barry Allen back from the dead for that? I mean, things have been pretty quiet on the Barry front for a very long time. And it would be maybe the same way that Hal Jordan is the Spectre now, maybe it would finally make sense to bring Barry back as a Blue Lantern. Maybe that's his role now. And yeah, that
Yeah.
would maybe as a tie-in to this upcoming Blackest Night event, we could get a Blue Lantern Barry Allen. What do you think of that? Wouldn't that be
I think
wild?
I think that would be great. And
Yeah.
yeah,
DC, if you're listening, and I know you are.
fingers crossed, DC execs, Alan Moore handles this and he brings Barry back and makes him a Blue Lantern.
Oh, absolutely. Alan, I know you're a listener. You write in pretty frequently. Love to have you on the show again very soon. But yeah, if you want to use that Blue Lantern Barry thing, it's all yours. The time is right to bring him back. He's been dead since 1985. I mean, enough is enough. We're all kind of waiting for Jason Todd to come back. We've had a few fake outs, but it was like Clayface every time. But yeah, the thing I always say about Batman is that his stories are too grounded. They're not cosmic enough. And I feel like the way to really bring aliens into Gotham, which would really liven it up, is to bring him into that Lantern world.
No, that makes sense. And definitely as a Yellow Lantern, he does. I mean, his whole thing is he strikes fear into the bad guys.
And you know, Scarecrow would be so pissed about it. You like, dude, that's my thing. Stop fighting my thing. And you could get a lot of drama out of that. Like, we could really elevate Scarecrow to take up the position that's really been vacant as Batman's arch nemesis since they killed off the Joker, which was very controversial. But you know what? I think the stories that have come from that have borne it was the right decision.
And, can you just imagine that a black and yellow bat suit?
Yeah.
Just a little bit of like yellow highlights to really sell home the Yellow Lantern costume.
Like an evil Carmine Infantino. Yeah, I love it. Oh, dude. Maybe he's got like the drawn on eyebrows from the Adam West cowl, but they're like yellow lightning bolts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be cool.
One of our listeners, please draw Yellow Lantern Batman. I would love to see that.
Speaking of, our most artistic and talented listener is up next. So, Yokro, if you're listening, which we know you are, I want to see a Yellow Lantern Batman.
I want to see Yellow Lantern Batman. I want to see a Blue Lantern Barry Allen. I know you're going to have to go deep in the archives to reference Barry Allen. But trust me, he looks pretty much like Wally, but like blonde. You didn't hear that from me. But yeah, I feel like this episode is going to generate a lot of fan art. And you know, maybe they're like saluting the flag with a green line on it. That would be really nice.
That would be dope.
Flying over the World Trade Center, where we broadcast from every week.
Yeah. So next question from Yokro. So clearly, the best Guy Gardner storyline is when he becomes a Red Lantern. What ramifications would have happened to the DC universe if he decided to stay a Red Lantern?
In that Red Lantern series, especially when Charles Soule took over, that was really good. That second part of the Red Lantern series. He was kind of like angling to be like the new leader of the Red Lantern Corps, and I think that's how it would have gone if the series kept going that way. And I feel like Guy is the kind of character who would really shine in a leadership position. When you see Guy Gardner, you think leader. I mean, he was the leader of the Justice League International for all that time. He was able to like command big personalities like Big Barda and Captain Atom and Batman for a reason. Everyone in the universe respects Guy Gardner. He's earned their respect. And I feel like setting up Guy as the head of the Red Lanterns, kind of like to mimic the Guardians, the way they manage the Green Lanterns, would set up a really interesting dynamic. And you know what? Fingers crossed that plays out in this Blackest Night story that Indigo seems to be teasing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also would have finally given like the Red Lanterns the really like the weight of a good villainous leader, because that was one of the cool things about, as much as I love Guy, he did make a great villain during that.
Yeah, the heel turn
leading the Red Lanterns against the combined forces of the green and the blue. Oh, that would have been a fantastic story.
Yeah, man.
Like finally giving the Greens a run for their money.
Man, if they did something like that, I wouldn't be surprised if they brought Guy back for another season of the Green Lantern show. I mean, we've never seen them revisit an old Green Lantern for a new season, but could happen.
Good. All right. So our last question today comes from Ryan the Prime. So we know that Earth has Green Lanterns and had Violet Lanterns and Star Sapphires.
Mhm.
We also know that multiple humans gained lantern rings.
Sure.
Is there anyone from Earth that is a full-fledged member of another corps? If there aren't many, would you want DC to make new characters to take up the rings, or take some existing characters who have had little spotlight and give them a ring?
That's a good question. I mean, I've already said Batman. I think Batman's my number one pick, and Barry Allen is also another great pick. Um, of like potentials. But there was Rancor, the human Red Lantern. And technically Dex-Star is from Earth. He's not a human, but he is a cat. He's from Earth.
It counts.
It counts. Let's see. Who else? Carol Ferris. Are we forgetting Carol Ferris? Lest we forget.
They mentioned the Star Sapphires.
Yeah.
We had the Violet Lantern and the Star Sapphires.
Yeah.
You know who would make a great Orange Lantern?
Who would make a great Orange Lantern?
Lex Luthor.
Whoa, you're blowing my mind right now. You are blowing my mind right now. That would be imagine like a Yellow Lantern Batman going up against an Orange Lantern Lex Luthor. Like, why isn't this comic in my hands right now?
Oh man, that would be so great.
I know that you and I had that stint where we were running DC for like 8 months, and we got a lot of cool stuff out there during that time. But like, if we were still there, if they could meet our quote, because it was really it came down to price at the end of it. If they could still meet our quote, God, we would still that would be a comic I would greenlight tomorrow.
Yeah, Brian, where was this question 2 years ago?
Yeah, and you know what? You know who I would get to write this? Jeff Johns. I think it's time to give him another shot.
No.
Yeah, I think it's been enough time. While we were talking over the last couple questions, you know how I was. I always read while we talk because I never stop reading comics. You said he was doing some stuff at Marvel, and I went over and read that stuff because I'm a pretty big Marvel reader. And some of like, especially the more recent stuff, really seems like he's turning himself around. He's developing some interesting ideas. And I think now is the time in 2023 is the time that Jeff Johns is really firing on all cylinders and putting out fresh ideas that nobody has ever thought of before, and that he's not stealing from anyone. I think this is the time for Jeff Johns to really shine.
Yeah, I don't know. We've given him that chance before, and he's let us down every time. Yeah. And I mean, his recent like monologues on how just like they're so hateful towards comic readers and how we are ruining the. I don't. Look, I give.
Call me a softie.
Time.
Call me a softie. I think everyone deserves a second chance. He might be able to handle it. But you know what? That's all speculation because we don't work for DC anymore as much as we'd like to, as much as we wish they were big enough for us. But we really have to devote all of our time to this podcast about DC. That's a lot more important than running DC Comics and a lot more profitable.
You're right. I mean, and focusing our time and attention here really helps us to bring up our media franchise. It's how we have taken over the top 3 floors of the World Trade Center.
That is how that happened.
Yeah. I don't know. So, okay, back to this last question though. So we have a good Blue Lantern with Barry. We have a great Yellow Lantern with Batman. We have an amazing Orange Lantern with Lex Luthor. What about, and I mean, okay, let's say we keep Carol as a Star Sapphire. We still have the Indigo Tribe.
Yeah.
What Earth-bound hero or villain would make a great Indigo Tribe member?
Well, as we've established, blue represents compassion, so Indigo represents hope. There is one hero who represents hope that comes to mind when I think about all of the DC characters. I would say that the one most hopeful of all the characters who are under the DC umbrella, it's got to be Lobo. I know he's not Earthbound, but I think he would make a great choice for the Corps.
Yeah, I mean, he did. He did have that stretch where he was instrumental in saving the space dolphins
Yes, I mean
from extinction.
he became a pope, and like we know that the Indigo Lantern Corps of Hope is all about faith, and it's like all that religion involved. Those like religious coded messages involved. I feel like Lobo is really primed to take over as like the head of the Indigo Corps right now. I know that would really shake up what's going on in Ann Nesenti's Indigo Lantern comics, but I feel like maybe post this Blackest Night arc that we're kind of putting together, that would be a good fit for it.
And it would be a great callback. It was from like the late 2000s, early 2010s.
Yeah.
That 12-issue miniseries, The Last Hope of Zarnia.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I didn't even think of that. To that.
Oh wow. That is probably like that was probably like in my subconscious when I said it. But that was amazing. Mike Grell came back for that. That was wonderful.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we've got all the lanterns. I mean, I guess we'll keep Kyle as the white.
Sure.
Man, once we know more about what this potential Black Lantern thing is, it'd be interesting to come up with who a good Black Lantern would be. But
I can't even know what they are.
I know.
Oh man, it's such a mystery. I mean, I know the White Lantern is about life, but then what would the Black Lantern be about? I don't know. I can't think. Anti-life?
Ryan,
do you think Darkseid is the Black Lantern? Oh shit, we haven't seen Darkseid in a hot minute.
No, we haven't. He hasn't been around in almost 20 years. Oh
yeah, I keep saying Darkseid would make a great Justice League villain, but they never bring him in. It's like they have this great villain and they're just sitting on him. It's just every week, Despero. But I'm like, come on, you got Darkseid right there.
That's got to be it. Okay, well, Ryan, we will definitely come back to this question once we know more about what this potential Black Lantern Corps is.
Yeah.
And come up with a good Earthbound character that fits that motif.
Yeah, we'll have a special episode for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as we do with every great series, once it's run its course, we'll do a deep dive, reread it, take questions.
Very well researched.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
As usual, as per the rigor expected of this show.
Well, Alex, that is the last of our questions this week.
Oh, no, already? Man.
Already. I know, time flies.
What a shame. Well, we'll be back next week.
We will be back next week.
Here on Sunny World Trade Center 1.
In the meantime, don't forget to check us out on socials where you can ask your questions. Next week, we will be talking about...
Next week, we will be talking about the great works of Scott Lobdell, one of the greatest writers in DC history, and all the cool stuff he's been doing with the Teen Titans.
Oh, fantastic. So, residents, you can send those questions into our different social media platforms. Twitter.
At Dr. DC.
Facebook.
Dr. DC Podcast.
Instagram.
At Dr. DC Podcast.
Reddit.
r/Dr_DC.
You can shoot us an email.
drdcpodcast@gmail.com.
And we haven't had a voicemail in a long time, guys. But don't forget, we do have the doc phone. It is always open.
208-917-3238 or 208-917-DCEU.
If you're nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Don't forget to buy our merch.
drdcpodcast.ca.
And you've heard us talk about it quite a few times here. We got a bunch of questions there at the very end from it, but we have a wonderful fan community over on the Doc Scored. We have the $1, $5, and $7 levels, and they all have access to the Doc Scored, and you can join that fan community on
patreon.com/DrDC.
Fantastic. And don't forget to catch our other limited run podcast. Limited run. We're going through the cult classic 13 episode series Supernatural.
Oh yeah, a lot of people have forgotten this show. I think it showed a lot of potential, but yeah, we together we went between our lovemaking sessions. We like to wind down with an episode of Supernatural, and we take some notes on it and we put it on for all of you to enjoy and share in our torrid affair.
But yes, don't forget, we are wrapping that up with the 13th and final episode here in 2 weeks.
Oh man, I don't know.
Forget to tune in.
Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do after that. It's got to be another cult classic that could have run a long time, but didn't get the chance it could have. Man.
No, there was, Alex, I don't know if you're going to remember this, but there was it was this weird attempt at doing a cartoon sitcom.
Okay.
It was it, they were yellow people.
Oh, Family Guy.
Yes. That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So there
that
was
was it.
2 seasons of that. I think there's 25 total episodes.
Yeah, Family Guy. That was the one with where the dad worked at a nuclear power plant and he had that like evil boss and his son had the skateboard. Yeah. Yeah, the
Yes.
great arcade brawler. Oh, I would love to do a Family Guy podcast.
Yes. We'll dive into Family Guy after we finish our Supernatural
Yeah.
one.
Look forward to Lucky There's a Family Cast.
Yes. Family Cast. I love it. All right, guys. Well, until next time, ciao, ciao.
See ya.
Superheroes, they always fight for what is right. Live with danger and adventure.